Welcome back, Shot Time, to another edition of All Ball Chicago on the Believe Network. I'm your co-host, Robert Bobby Reed, and I got the NBA veteran legend, your host, Marcus Liberty, on the line. What's up, Marcus?
What's going on, my beautiful people? Man, I'm in the building. You know that, man. Just trying to chill for the day, man, and relax a little bit and do a little convo, get a little conversation going.
That's what's up, man. I forgot, man. I got to put on my cologne, Somebody might smell me. You feel me?
Wow. Wow.
So, yeah, man, we was rapping yesterday, and we got to talking about some of the jobs that's been available and that's open. And I know you got a history of coaching, but we won't get into you right quick. But tell me, man, what do you think about this whole coaching carousel that's happening right now with all these coaches being relieved? What's up with that?
Well, man, it's kind of hard, man, for some of these coaches to stick around. But then some of the coaches like Iona, Coach Clues down at Iona, um, great coach, man. Always got Iona to the tournament. And then this year I guess he got sick a little bit. So his situation was a little bit different, Iona. And, of course, they brought in Rick Pitino because the coach who was, taking over for him, they didn't do as well. It's sometimes, man, something about, certain coaches, man, that has that magic touch. And I think Coach Clue, who was the Iona coach for a very long time and had a lot of great basketball players that came out of that program. I think when he, stepped down, because people thinking he got fired, he didn't get fired. He stepped down, and they went searching, man. And Rick Pitino was out there. How can you pass up on someone like Rick Pitino who has all that knowledge as far as coaching? Now the baggage that come along with that, you might have to just deal with that. But if that was someone, an African American, guy that did those things, or under their umbrella, because Rick Pitino claimed that he was not involved in that. But if that was on his watch, I mean, he's just responsible for it as the other coaches that was under him. So if that was a black African American coach, would that happen? That's the question, that I would like to, talk about a little bit, and then we'll go into the other coaches, because it seems like they get more opportunities than African American coaches.
Wow, that's funny that you would say that. And not to go all the way off into left field with the whole recruiting scandal and all of that, and how Chuck Person took the hit for, everybody over there. The laws don't work for us, and we know that. And no matter what me and you may think, all the athletes are black, but the coaches are white. So what do you think the mentality of the administration is when they bring in these predominantly white coaches to coach these black kids? Just touch on that right quick if you can.
Well, I think we have to understand a little bit about what's going on. I mean, for one, and it's crazy that we're talking about this today, man, because when I was in high school, I had thought about going to a black college, at one time. It was Howard University, of course, because that's the school you used to always hear people talk about. And someone was talking to me, and it was like, man, you can change the game if you do this. But then how it always goes. You look on television, you don't see any black colleges on television as much. So, and most kids want to be on television so their peers can see them, their family can see them. And you just didn't see a lot of historical black colleges on television. And I think that's what we should be pushing more so than other things, because I think once they get more visible, more kids want to participate and go to those universities. So I think that's one of the things that we should be kind of focusing on a little bit more, trying to get that pushed. I know it's hard, man, because of the dollars and all that the small black colleges doesn't get. And I think the top colleges, who predominantly is being coached by white, Caucasians, coaching them, and it is what it is, like, as far as that goes, because now a kid who wants to go to play for a Duke, who is one of the top programs in the country, Kid looks at him and says, Duke is always on television. Duke is always nationally ranked. So why not go to, that university? So I think you have to have some parents, your parents behind you and pushing you to attend Black historical colleges, and you make a difference. You be that one to make that difference and go to that school, and you still can get your education, do right, and maybe, just maybe, you'll open up the floodgates for others to follow behind.
Well, this is a bonus segment, so we could pretty much be all over the place if we want to. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
It's kind of like, this is my
right.
party. I can do what I want to do. So
No doubt.
what do
No
you
doubt.
think, like, if a kid like Zion would have went to a Jackson State, well, how would that have looked? First of all, I know it would have shook up the landscape of everything from here on out, from the investors and all that, because there's a lot of people who make money behind these kids going to these big time programs. And that's another thing that we got to talk about now.
Well, just think, Bob, if he attends a school like Jackson State, and all of a sudden it switches, all the media attention goes to Jackson State. Of course, I mean, ESPN, those networks going to want to see this kid play, so they're going to put him on television, and then the dollar's going to fall behind. That would have been very interesting, man, if he would have did that. That would have been very interesting to see what would have came out of that, because he was one and done anyway. Duke didn't win a national championship, so
right.
he was, it's like you might as well go play, your 1 year
at HBCU.
Yeah,
that might be something we need to start. The one and dones go to HBCUs, because you already predicted to do it anyway.
Yep. Yeah.
That'd be huge, man.
And then have some of those. I even think some of the historical Black colleges, that we have, throughout the country, and then you play in these high major schools, and you never know what can happen. I mean,
what can happen. If you get the best player, you can put him around damn near anybody. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I mean, you take you back in the 89 and put you at the point at Jackson State, they don't lose a damn game. You know what I'm saying? Because there was no 6'8" guards in college back then. I mean, doing that.
Exactly.
So yeah, man, we need that. That's something that we need to really enforce on our kids. Not enforcing them, but educate them on that. The importance of.
I think, and I was thinking, man, and I had thought about this a long time ago, and I don't know if it can come to fruition or not. But I always thought that if we can bring some kind of like tournament, all HBCU colleges come to a certain city, so that way the kids can come out and see them, right? For one, support them. And now these kids that probably never heard about, a Jackson State or Howard University or FAMU or all the Black historical colleges, and now you're getting them in one city. Maybe like 8 or 12 teams. You get them, then you let them compete. You bring the marching bands, you bring the bands, you bring all that flavor into those cities. And now these kids coming out and seeing them ball out, and you're like, whoa, maybe I need
them dancing girls and all of that, man. Because that whole aura.
I mean, the whole setup. I mean, like when I was at King High School, our band was off the charts, and most of the kids that went to King end up going to Black, colleges. So it's in the building. I mean, that flavor is there, man.
So the students go, but the athletes don't. The high major athletes don't.
It is some that go. I mean, like you look at. I'm just gonna say football, for instance. You look at your guy Jerry Rice.
Okay.
Jerry Rice went to what?
Valley State, Mississippi Valley State.
Yeah,
Mississippi Valley State. Yeah, man.
So some of the football players take that chance. And I think my thing keep going in and out.
Yeah, the vast majority of football players, I mean, they definitely hit up the HBCUs, no question. But that's where they go to down south to get them doggone boys, man. Them boys be so big.
Right. So how can we change that? So that's why I was saying, if we put a venue So, gets a major power behind us, like a Coca-Cola or Gatorade or Power, one of those big time corporations behind it to sponsor it to help, people understand about the historical Black colleges, man. And not just, I ain't even talking about just the sports. They just need to know a little bit more, be a little bit more educated on, these institutions, man.
It could be the all ball Chicago HBCU basketball experience. Sound like a winner to me.
Hey,
We need
hey,
sponsors for it, y'all. Come on, man. Let's get this thing done so these kids can see themselves, man, because we don't have that presence up here in Chicago. We call Chicago State HBCU, but I think the reason why they do that is because it's centrally located on the south side of Chicago, and it's dominated by African Americans. But I don't think that was the original direction of that school. You
right,
know. But on to the next though, man. We were talking about this UIC thing, man. With the coach at
right.
UIC, he was getting down over there, right? He had a pretty good
He
season, didn't he?
he was winning, but I don't think he was winning the way that so that's why I always say, man, you gotta be careful, man. When you have someone like a Jimmy Collins, who
Okay.
was the head coach at UIC, and he was getting them boys to the tournament. That next guy who they bring in, he's got big shoes to fill, man. Big
It's
shoes
gonna be
to fill.
big.
And Jimmy Collins, he did his thing. I mean, he kept the kids, he kept some kids home. They built a nice program. They were winning the conference. So you have to think about that, man. That next guy who comes in and they've given you 5 years to do something and it doesn't happen within that 3 years, man, there's a good chance you may get axed. You might be up out of there. So I think that's what happened with this coach. I mean, I don't know him personally, but I think now you need to look and see what's really out there. Instead of jumping real quick to hire someone or someone you may already be thinking about, make sure you bring somebody in that's going to motivate these kids, man, and get them to focus on certain things before you start talking about these X and O's. Make sure you can motivate kids. And I think that is key to when you want to be a basketball coach. Are you a motivator?
Well, let me pitch this to you, man. Chicago, it may be the only state where you can go, and they don't have. And whereas our market is dominated by professional athletes who came out of Chicago to play ball. Let's face facts. Basketball is huge here. Wouldn't it be to the best interest of these programs to bring in former NBA players like you to coach these programs who have the knowledge to work with these kids to keep the kids in state?
I mean, I wouldn't be against it. I definitely wouldn't be against it, especially if that's what the guys want to do. So some like me, I want to get involved. I want to do things whether that's on the high school level, which I've been coaching here, college level, or in the NBA. It doesn't matter to me. I just want to give back some of my knowledge to that next generation of hoopers, man. And I think what's missing a lot of times, and I don't know if a lot of coaches, I mean, even if you bring them in as assistant coach, I'm not, saying they got to be a head coach, but you could bring them in as assistant coach. Some coaches, to me, I think they feel intimidated by, an ex NBA guy coming into their program because they might think he might know a little bit more than me.
Right.
So now it's like a touchy. I don't know how to communicate with this NBA guy because he's spoiled because he's been making all this money in the NBA, and
Mm-hmm.
now he wants to come down here to the college level and tell us what to do, and that's the wrong mindset to have. It's like I'm coming to help you become a better coach, or vice versa. I'm going to learn something from you that I probably don't know. So that's has to have an open mind when you hiring somebody, doing your interview process, and you might have an NBA guy in your office talking about, I want to work for you. Don't feel intimidated. Give them an opportunity because you never know what that can lead to, man. That can actually help your young kids because now they're looking at this ex NBA guy saying, I'm gonna pick his brain.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on the flip side of that again, Bob, the head coach might feel a little envy of that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
why is that kid always over there with coach,
Right.
such and such,
Yeah, they do. They
because
get in they feelings like that.
feelings, exactly, exactly. So you got to understand that, man, it ain't about that, man. It's about us helping these kids grow and become someone one day.
Let me
So
ask you
that's
this,
what.
big fella. You've won on every level. You haven't lost a whole lot of games, man. I mean, I followed you through high school. You kicked butt. Went to college. You kicked butt. I mean, just been winning, winning, winning. And then you went to the pros. You may have went through some tough times, but you went pro. So you can't. Nobody can argue with going pro. Let's be
Right.
factual about that. UIC has struggled since Jimmy Collins been gone. I think you would be a good candidate for something like that, man. And I just think with your young spirit and your knowledge of basketball and your relationships in Chicago, you could really grow that program. What would you change about that if you had the opportunity to go over there though? If you took that job. And not that you're looking for it. I'm just saying if it was you, if you came back home and took that UIC job, what would you do
Well,
different?
well, first off, I have to understand what the athletic director wants because it's all about how they thinking too. You got to think of what direction they want to come through. They want to try to win, you know, their conference. Do they want to make it to the NCAA tournament? So now that's out the way. Now, if he says yes, that's what we want to do. That's what I'm all about, right?
Okay.
So,
Okay.
so now let's put a marketing strategy together of how we can get fans to come into the gym because kids don't like to play in front of empty gyms. We
Right,
just know
right.
it, right? So now let's get the community. Let's get Chicago behind us, right? So now I'm going out speaking and doing all these things in Chicago, trying to get the community behind us, trying to get some businesses behind us. Uh, and now after that, I'm going to all the high school coaches, which I played basketball with or against some of the guys who's coaching high school basketball.
All
So
of them, if not, if
so
not all of them.
or they definitely gonna know who I am,
Right.
right? So it's an easy sell for me to get up in the doors in the gyms and recruit those kids and possibly get some of those kids to stay at home instead of saying, you know what, let's go somewhere else. So that's the next thing I would do, build those relationships back up and get some of those kids to stay home, instead of going out of state or to other states and playing basketball. So I would build a relationship, try to build a program like that. One thing I always said about me is I'm a big motivator. And then I got people I can connect with, and help me become a better coach. Because I won't come in and say I'm the best coach and I can do this and that. But you see the situation down in Memphis with Penny Hardaway. Penny
Right.
Hardaway got Memphis behind him. Penny Hardaway is doing his thing, right?
Right.
So why can't Marcus Liberty can do the same thing at a UIC or whatever college it may be? So I would have that connections. I would have that resources that I could tap into to help me become that. And my man Jimmy Collins already came out and said he'll definitely be part of whatever I try to do if I decide to put my name out there like that.
I think that would be a great move for UIC and for Chicago because we've been reluctant to do that historically. I can't recall any ex-NBA guys coaching here in the state of Illinois. You?
Now,
Now, how in the world we going to call ourselves the Mecca of basketball? We had all these NBA guys. I mean, we put a post on Facebook and named them. Dude, we were forgetting people with so many, but yet we have 10 Division I programs, and not one of those programs had enlisted a professional athlete out of Chicago as the head man. We have a problem, Marcus.
yeah, I mean, like I said, Bob, it definitely is a problem, but we also got to make sure these guys want to coach. Some guys, like me, I'm just throwing out my name. Like I know what I would bring to a table, and I know what I'm all about. I'm not trying to, say I want that check. I'm like, man, I really want to help
But
kids.
you already straight financially.
But I want to help kids though. That's
Right.
that's that's what I'm all about. So people, look at it like I remember when someone told me, if you really want to coach, go volunteer. I did that. I volunteered at, schools and help. And then I came to Florida and I was a high school coach for 4 years. No, actually 5 years. High school coach, loved what I was doing, motivated kids, man. They exceeded their expectations, man, because they was expecting,
They was
they set the
mediocre
bar
before you got there.
they set the bar real low, man. And I was like, no, I'm not,
Oh,
I'm not
man.
about that. So they understood what it took to be, winners. Uh, so that's what I was all about, man. And I think I did a great job at that, man. I mean, not just, just pat myself on the back, but I think, when you have someone that that knows the game and knows how to push buttons, because I remember when I was playing, things that I liked, the things that I didn't like. So I kind of go through that same thing in my coaching philosophy. I got to know who to push. I got to know who to lean back and say, you know what, I can't get on him like I can get on that player. So
Right.
it's different situations, man, from different players.
Well, you got Western Illinois job open up too, so that's two of them that's available, and those are
Right.
really good programs. And I just can't understand why Illinois programs can't get back to that national stage where you guys took it. Well, and I know a lot of kids leave the state. I just think that the rumor is the kids just like to leave Chicago. They don't want to be here. They want to get up out of here. And like, how would you
I
keep them here, big dog?
I disagree with you on that, Bob, because
Okay.
when we when we all decided to stay at home and go to the University of Illinois, and talking about the Chicago, well, it was mostly no, it was all state of Illinois, kids that went to the University of Illinois, right? They wasn't winning no national championships or anything before we got there, right? But
Right.
they were winning. But they were winning, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think kids want to be around or a part of some winning. Somebody's winning, a program that's winning. So if a Northern Illinois or Western Illinois or UIC, those programs are not winning, these kids are not thinking about, well, I can rebuild that program. They
Right.
they want to come into to a situation where it's already, set in stone that they're winning. So now let me see if I can enhance it by, joining them. And I think that's some of the kids' mindsets. And I think if we can change that, because the University of Illinois is a prestigious, university. It's the state school. I mean,
Right.
you think of, all of the successful people that came out of that program, out of that school.
Man.
It's major network. So I think you can look at it like that, or you can say, you know what, I'm gonna just go jump on the bandwagon and go to another university outside of the state that's already proven.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope, man. I think that it's crazy because I look at all the programs here, and they don't have a lot of kids from Illinois on these programs. I mean, you look at it. You look at the rosters, man. I looked at Eastern and Western and Northern and
Oh
Southern
man,
and
we didn't even mention Eastern Illinois. I forgot about Eastern
yeah,
Illinois.
Eastern, man, and all those programs they go out of state. And if we're supposed to have the toughest kids, there are kids that may not be at the McDonald All American range, but be right there at the D Wade range when he was coming out. You got a kid like Dwayne Wade. He only had 2 scholarship offers. I think he said one Illinois State, and the other one was at Marquette.
Hmm.
He didn't even get recruited here. Tim Hardaway, he said he only had maybe one or two, and none from the state of Illinois. So he was in
Yeah,
UTEP.
Illinois.
So I mean,
Illinois definitely.
what are we doing, man? And the last time we had some real success after you guys was okay. You say D Brown them, which I remember that vaguely, but I'm thinking about Quinn Richardson and that whole group. They stayed, Big Lance, and so it could be done. That's the blueprint, right?
Yeah, I mean, even if you look at back when we played, I mean, that was the blueprint.
That was
Think
the
about it.
blueprint. That's what I'm
Chicago
saying.
kids, Chicago kids getting together and saying, you know what, let's be special right here. Let's be special in our own state. Let's be special in our own city. Let's
Mm-hmm.
come together. Let's build, this chemistry, and let's go out and win a bunch of games. And
Mm-hmm.
we'll see what happens when we get to the tournament. Like if you watch some of the games that we played, and then you go back to some of the games that DePaul played when they was making those runs, even Loyola when now Frederick Hughes and all those guys from Chicago stayed together too.
Mm-hmm.
You saw what was happening. I mean, Loyola
Even
almost got to
yeah,
they
even
almost
Loyola a couple of years ago, right? They got all those kids from here. That Loyola team that made it to what was they? They made it to the Final Four, I believe, and they had all those kids here. So I think anything is possible, man, as long as we just continue to educate these kids on the importance of staying and getting the education first. And if they can play basketball, man, that's definitely a plus. So we're going to pause for a small station identification, and we'll be right back to you, y'all. Hold on. We'll be right back. All Ball Chicago, co-host